Okay, so yeah, so I'll explain a little bit about what. So I'm encouraging you guys to build a Fediment module for the hackathon, and if you don't know Rust, that's going to be extremely difficult. so yeah, we'll see how that goes. I wasn't planning on building one, but maybe I'll change my mind. Like last year, so yeah, the idea of Fediment is like it's kind of like from a developer point of view, it's kind of a framework for building federations. So what is a federation? It's just an online multisig that can enforce its own rules. So it's like a consensus system with transactions, inputs and outputs, and every module just adds inputs and outputs to the transaction and some mechanics for how the different participants in the multisig agree on the state of the system and what transactions are valid or invalid. And so when you create a module, you just need to define a couple structs. Like one of them is a struct to generate a config, right? So maybe your module generates some new private keys that it requires. So you need when it's first set up, all the participants in the federation need to set up generate their own private keys and commit to public keys and generate like a threshold public key, for example. Then you also need to define, there's a struct called like a server module. This just says how to handle transactions, how to handle, like what's a valid input, what's a valid output, stuff like that. And there's not too much more than that. So you can build a pretty simple module on a couple hundred lines of code. Like in our code base, we have one called the dummy module. It's like the simplest possible thing. It just says like hello world and stuff like that. And so I just want to walk through some ideas of stuff you could build with Fediment that I think would be really interesting. So the first one is you just go to GitHub, the Fediment GitHub page, and where's my cursor? There it is. Just go to discussions and click on Fediment modules. There's a whole bunch of interesting ones. So what are some good ones? Yeah, so ln URL basically doesn't work in a federation because like the ln URL thing doesn't have like you need some way to like provide it's missing like a public key that could be threshold signed by the federation to prove that the federation authorized it. So ln URL does not work with federations, sadly, but Bolt 12 does. So that would actually be an interesting idea. Like you could do a Bolt 12 module right now, but the thing is you could only have one party running it unless you also figured out how to threshold sign Schnorr signatures. And actually at the last hackathon like 6 months ago, I always forget his last name, Nick Farrow, the guy from Australia, a UTXO club, he built a module to like a kind of a hacky Taproot on-chain wallet, but it was really cool. And so if you could resurrect that, then you could also build like a proper Bolt 12 module. So I think that's probably too much for a hackathon, but either getting the threshold, the native Taproot on-chain wallet, or just making like getting Fediment to work with in a one-of-one situation with Bolt 12, I think both of those would be possible. So this one is like a pretty fascinating one. There's this talk by Lloyd Fournier. It's called like conditional. I forget the name. It's like a very long and complicated name, but this is one of the most interesting YouTube talks I think I've seen recently. It's got like 150 views, and it's just like kind of it's like a vision for how to do like arbitrary smart contracting on Bitcoin without changing Bitcoin. It involves DLCs, but basically like a new way of doing DLCs, but this sort of DLC style contracting works really well on a federation like Fediment because you can just, if you're trusting oracles to tell you what happened, you might as well just trust them with your money, and then you can, because you're already trusting them with your money, then you can have them make payments instantly, add privacy, a bunch of nice little features. So yeah. What are some other ones? Another one, interesting one would just be like rewrite our on-chain wallet with BDK. That's one I've been wanting to do for a while because we have like a custom on-chain wallet. And it would just be like, if you want to learn how Bitcoin wallets work, that would be a really fun exercise. I have no idea how to get my cursor back to the other screen. Another one was, what was the one? Simplicity. So simplicity is like the vision for how to replace Bitcoin script in Bitcoin. So 6 months ago, I did a little module that added simplicity support to Fediment, and it could only do like it was like pay to simp hash, right? It could only pay to a hash, and so a cool idea would be to try to just get like arbitrary simplicity programs running inside of Fediment. Liquid just released support for this, so I think that the libraries are probably ready. So, but yeah, that's about it. I don't have too much more to say. So if anybody knows Rust and would like to build a Fediment module, come and work with me and I'll help you. If you don't know Rust, you're going to have a rough time. I'm sorry. All right, that's it for me. Yeah.